It's time for the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. Stay tuned as we discuss what's happening in the world of local and national sports in Southeast Missouri and beyond. And welcome back to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. I'm Mike Bueller.
I'm Mark Sanders.
And Kyle Roberts is going to be joining us in a little bit. We are trying some more new technology for the podcast in our back block. We'll be talking a lot of Cardinals baseball then. But me and Mark are going to talk for a few minutes. We're recording Thursday morning. Yesterday, I got to visit a signing ceremony for the Raiders and Lady Raiders basketball players that are making the jump to the 4-year level. They had that in the weight room at the Libel Family Sports Complex. There's a story on SEMA Ball and at the Daily American Republic about it that I wrote. And, got to visit with some of those kids, yesterday as well. And, with some of our men's basketball players last week. Really good to be seeing them move on to the 4-year level. And one thing I think that's really cool is that of the 10 signees, 5 of them are headed to HBCUs.
Yeah, I mean that's a great thing for our program. It's terrific to see kids come through here and succeed in the 2-year level and be able to sign and continue their education, continue their playing career. And I've been saying this for years about Mizzou football. Mizzou is almost never in the conversation for a national championship. But one thing that they do consistently and successfully is send players to the NFL, especially wide receivers, defensive linemen, and backup quarterbacks. But that's something that they can really hang their hat on. And I think that this year is indicative of the strength of the Three Rivers program from a recruiting standpoint, is that we can go into the homes and high schools of these kids and say, not only will you get a chance to play here, but if you want to continue to play, college scouts are going to be looking at you, and we can show them this record of success here and success at the next level. So I think it's something for us to really be proud of.
I think so too, and I'll just talk a little bit about where everybody's going. Of course, last week we had some of the men on. Johan Pouch is going to Southern Indiana. Matt Hampton's going to Tennessee Chattanooga. Antonio Williams is going to Winston-Salem State, which is an HBCU, and Bryce Wallace is going to Wisconsin Parkside. On the women's side, 3 of our 6 women are going to the SWAC, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, which is one of the most prestigious HBCU conferences in the country. That is Courtney Bluitt, who's going to Mississippi Valley State, where she's going to be reunited with former Lady Raider Sydney Marshall. Denia Ross is going back home to Louisiana and is going to play at Grambling State. And Kiera Neal is going to play at Bethune-Cookman down in Daytona, Florida. Also playing at the 4-year level are Caitlin Lord and Lynn Rieth that are going to be going to Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and Tristan Spearman's going back home to Memphis and going to play at Lane College, another HBCU. A little bit of cool trivia about Lynn Rieth and Caitlin Lord. This is the 3rd team they have played together on. They were originally teammates at Eastern Florida State College down in, Florida, and then both transferred here a year apart, and then they are going to Texas A&M Corpus Christi, so they are going to be teammates at the 3rd school they've been at, and it's kind of weird. Every year that they've both played and haven't redshirted, they've been teammates, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, and that's going to be ready-made chemistry for the team, and it's also going to ease the transition for those young ladies because, I know for myself, 100 years ago when I left home and went to college, I didn't know a soul, and you always have that time where you meet people and hopefully you start to make friends. But I mean, starting that experience in a new place with one of your friends, with someone who you already know really well, it's just going to make that transition that much easier for both of them.
Indeed, it is. And in another bit of Raider news before we go to a break, The Raiders have got another. The men's team has got another commit from Cody Lecklider from Owasso, Oklahoma, by way of Missouri Southern State University in Joplin. Excited to have Cody aboard. I don't know a lot about him. I do know that he averaged about 6 points a game, playing about 15 minutes a game this past season at Missouri Southern. Those numbers at the Division II level and at the playing in the MIAA conference, which is a pretty good league, says he could have a lot of success playing here. That's a nice pickup for us. I want to give credit. Coach Kirby and assistant coaches Garrett King and Parker Long have done a good job of getting some guys in this year as we look to reload. Because and it was talked about at the banquet Tuesday night. The men's team, we're coming off one of the best stretches we've had in a while. I mean, by some metrics, the best stretch we've had in close to 15 years. Where in 2 years we've had back-to-back 21 seasons, played for the region championship twice, won it once, and made it to Hutch once. And that's about the best stretch we've had probably since about 2011 and 2012. And man, like I said, if you go by some metrics, going as far back as 2010, and we're not home yet. It's good to get to Hutch. I've heard Coach Kirby say he doesn't just want to get to Hutch; he wants to win games at Hutch, and that's encouraging because that's what we all want. And I think we are headed that way. I think this off season is going to be very telling, but this off season is just getting started. Really excited, looking forward to seeing what's going to happen.
Well, with when we look at the entirety of the range of college sports, uh, winning winning a championship is not always a realistic goal for every program. I mean, like right now, I'll use the Mizzou example again. Is it conceivable that Mizzou could win, a football national championship or go to the Final Four and win a national championship there? I don't think so. I mean, yes, maybe. Kyle would probably argue with me about the possibility of something like that happening. But really, when you just look at the way the other programs that do compete on a perennial basis for those types of championships, Mizzou is just not at that tier. I mean, they're a second tier team. That is not the case, however, with Three Rivers men's and women's basketball. The women's team has shown that they can go to the national tournament on an annual basis. They haven't pushed through to the top yet, but I think the potential is absolutely there. Of course, our men's team has two championship banners uh, hanging from the rafters of the gym. So, yeah, that is absolutely possible. And so, if it is possible, that needs to be your goal. That absolutely needs to be your goal. If the possibility, and I would even say for a place like Mizzou, uh, what could it take? And it's probably a key player. For Mizzou football, we're probably talking a five-star quarterback. A guaranteed slam dunk NFL first-round pick quarterback. I think if we got somebody like that, you would really start to see the conversation change. And I think the same would be true on the basketball side. That if we got a huge guy on the inside or a lights out shooting point guard along the lines of a Caitlin Clark or a Steph Curry, then I think you would see the conversation shift. And I'm going to tie this back in to Three Rivers. That's where recruiting is just so important. Can we get that transformational star on the men's side or the women's side, who can lead the team down that long, hard road to a championship, and it's not just on one player, but that one player elevates everyone else. So if you can find that star and support them with a talented supporting cast, there's no reason why our expectation shouldn't be another banner hanging from the rafters of the Lidla Center.
There you go, and that's going to be what's interesting to see. And I know our coaches are working hard, and I'm excited to see what they're going to bring us. And when we come back, we will be joined by several Lady Raiders who are talking about where they are heading to at the 4-year level here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Three Rivers men's basketball coach Robert Kirby, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And we are back on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle, and we are joined by a trio of Three Rivers College Lady Raiders basketball players who are not just making the jump to the 4-year Division I level. They are all going to be conference rivals in the SWAC, one of the elite HBCU conferences in the country. So I am joined by Kiera Neal, Courtney Bluitt, and Denia Ross. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Hello.
Kiera, I'm going to start with you. How do you feel to be making that jump to D1?
I am so excited, so happy to be ready to go.
And I know that, and you've battled through some adversity. You got hurt early last season and ended up redshirting, but you came back this year and ended up being, all region and going D1. That's a pretty nice climb. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it was definitely a hard fight. I had to figure out a lot of ways to be put out on the floor, and coming back from an injury, I'm just very grateful to be able to continue to keep playing.
And I know you are excited to be getting to play in sunny Florida down in Daytona. Tell me about that.
Yes, I'm very excited to go to Daytona. I love the beach. I love the coaches. The school is nice, so I'm going to have fun. Good
deal. Yeah, Kiera is going to Bethune-Cookman. Courtney is going to Mississippi Valley State University and, a conference rival. How excited are you to be making that jump?
I'm very excited to wrap up my JUCO career and go to play D1 basketball, especially since I get to see my teammates in like a couple, months. Even though I've just played them, I'll get to see them again, and I'm very excited.
Well, another thing cool, you're going to be reunited with a former teammate here, Sydney Marshall. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I think we're actually going to be roommates, so that'll be pretty exciting. So just having somebody I'm comfortable with already, it will be very good to do.
How excited are you to be making, and not only that jump to D1, but, such a, tradition-rich conference in the SWAC?
I'm very excited. I know it's a lot of competition throughout the SWAC conference, and I'm just ready to see what's next.
Good deal. A little bit of trivia, y'all. Mississippi Valley State, one of their most famous alumni for you football fans is legendary San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Jerry Rice. Denia, you are headed to another tradition-rich university in Grambling State. How excited are you?
So excited. I'm just ready to go back home and play at home because it's just better to play at home.
I've heard you're going to be only 20 minutes away from home. Tell me about that.
I feel like it's good to be 20 minutes away from home so you can lock in and get the support from a lot more people that you know and family members and stuff like that, be able to come to the games and stuff like that.
Hey, last but not least, you're going to get to play against your, your former teammates. You get to play against Courtney, you get to play against Kiera. You're going to get to see them once or twice a year. Tell me about that.
It's going to be good to see them again, doing what they do.
And another thing too, you had a really good season here. I think you might have been maybe our most improved player. I mean, and you tell me about that climb.
I feel like I just played with a little more on my shoulder and just wanted to Coach Wiggs let me play freely, so that's where that came in at.
And there you go. And that is Courtney Bluitt, Denia Ross, and Kiera Neal here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Three Rivers College women's basketball coach Alex Wiggs, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And welcome back to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. I'm Mike Bueller, and we are joined by some more Lady Raider basketball players who are making the jump to the 4-year level. We are joined by Caitlin Lord and Lynn Rieth, who are making the jump to Texas A&M University at Corpus Christi, and by Tristan Spearman, who is headed to Lane College in Memphis, which is going to be a bit of a homecoming for her. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Tristan, I'm going to start with you. You're getting to go, Lane is a very impressive place. It's an HBCU, and also, too, they win, and you're getting to go home. Tell me about that.
Yes, I'm definitely looking forward to going home, and I really wanted to experience the HBCU vibe. You know, when I visited, it really felt like family, kind of welcoming, warm kind of community. And like you said, they win, and I just want to go and make a difference and have fun on campus at home.
Tristan, you got to be part of a great run here this year, helped us get back to the national tournament 6th year in a row. Tell me about that.
Yes. I think my experience was definitely a little bit different than, a couple others of my teammates, but I think I came here, learned a lot, and I really love Coach Wiggs. I think he's going to help me. What he's taught me here is going to help me in my next steps.
Indeed. Caitlin, your turn. Caitlin, you are headed down to Corpus Christi, which is about the southernmost part of Texas. Tell me about that.
No, I'm really excited. The island's on campus, so I'm really excited to get back to the beach. I'm from Australia, so very excited for that. When I visited there a couple weeks ago, I just loved it. I love the coaches, love the vibe, love everyone there, so it was great.
One thing I remember, you're from Perth, Australia, right?
Yeah.
Aren't you? That's pretty close to the beach, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to get back to the beach and warm weather all the time. So that's not something we've had in Missouri. So it's definitely an upside of going to Texas. Yeah.
You've got to be here for 2 years. Of course, you didn't get to play much your first year because of injury. What's it been like being part of this ride the last 2 years?
Honestly, I did wish I had another year here just to get another year under my belt because I haven't really played much in the last 3 years that I've been in college. So I really felt like this year has helped me a lot as a player, and I've definitely learned a lot about what I want to do and how I want to be as a player, and definitely just found my voice more this year because I've been very quiet in the past years.
Good deal. And Lynn, you are joining Caitlin in Corpus Christi. Tell me about that.
We started off our freshman year at Eastern Florida. Then I made the transition to come here, and now we'll be going to our 4th year, which is Texas Corpus Christi, and pretty excited about that. This year I feel like we had more time to play with each other than we did my freshman year, and hopefully, next year we'll be able to find each other on the court more and just continue to grow our chemistry. So I'm excited to have, somebody that I've known these past 3 years to come along with.
And I think it's pretty cool that you both are getting to basically play your third school and 3rd year in a row together. What's that like?
It wasn't on purpose. It just kind of happened, God's timing. Everything just went accordingly to how it just happened. So it's exciting for me. I mean, we have so many memories, and we can look back and be like, damn, we've been with each other from the start. So, and I feel like not a lot of people can say that.
And like I've said to them, you got to be part of a great ride here this year. 6th straight national tournament appearance, 5th trip to the Sweet 16 in 6 years. What's it been like being part of that?
It's great. I feel like the standards are high, expectations are high. Coach Wiggs, he demands a lot out of us, and you have to constantly show up every single day, and that's ultimately what's going to carry with us to our next school. Just that high expectation, that high demand to come in and compete and just be dominant in everything that you do. And just like Tristan said, I've learned a lot this year, and taking that with me to my next school year and so forth.
Good deal. And that is Caitlin, Lord, Tristan Spearman, and Lynn Rieth here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Tony Webb, and you're listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And we are back on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. And we're doing something different, y'all. We are using StreamYard, which is something that Kyle introduced us to. Looking forward to trying it out. That kind of gives us a chance to do the podcast, remote. It also could be a kind of a fun way to have some guests on remote. Really looking forward to trying it out. But we are going to talk a lot of St. Louis Cardinals baseball. And, the Cardinals have been a real surprise team this season. I famously, or maybe I should say infamously, went on this podcast back in March and said, I think this team's going to lose 100 games. And so far, they have proven me wrong enough that it may not be too early for me to eat a big plate of crow. I don't know if this team is going to be able to keep it up or if they're going to be a playoff team. But they have looked very, very good in the early going. They've got some things they need to work on. But, I mean, you can't argue with the record. And, guys, I know you've got a ton of thoughts there, so dive in.
I can't tell you first and foremost how much I wanted to slap you when you said that they were going to lose 100 games. No St. Louis Cardinals team is ever going to be like that. I genuinely wanted to inflict physical pain upon you. But unfortunately, the Birds lost yesterday 6-2 to the Brewers. I mean, we know everybody in the Central's over 500. The Brewers are not an easy out. They went to the NLCS last year. But yeah, it's a lot to be optimistic about with this bunch of young Cardinals. You know how nice it is to say young Cardinals. This team's been perpetually old my entire life. It's good to see some injected youth here.
They're currently sitting at 21-15. They are in second place in the National League Central, 3.5 games behind the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs look very much like they did last year in the first half of the season, where they're just a machine. It looks like they're just going to run away with the division and maybe even with the league. But we saw what happened with that last year, where the Cubs faltered in the second half. The Brewers took them over, and the Cubs were just a non-factor in the postseason at that point. The number that concerns me, by the way, over their last 10 games, the Cardinals are 7-3, and they're currently sitting at 6 games over 500. That's great. Here's what concerns me. Their run differential is sitting at -1. And if you look
that's worrisome.
Yes, and if you look at Bill James, is sort of like the father of baseball analytics. He said that run differential really determines your record. And so a team with a run differential like the Cardinals at -1, that is indicative of a team that has a 500 record.
That's a very streaky ball club.
Yeah, they really are. And you're going to have that. You're going to have that. There's two factors that's going to contribute to that for the Cardinals. Number one is that their fielding is amazing. Okay, their defense is absolutely astounding. And I'm going to go ahead and just say they have the rookie of the year this season on their team in second baseman J.J. Weatherholt. I mean, if the voting closed today, he's your runaway rookie of the year. I don't think, to me at least, there's not any question about that. But good pitching can shut these hitters down because they're young, although, they just destroyed Paul Skeens in Pittsburgh.
Paul Skeens is 0-5 all time against the Cardinals, believe it or not.
He's the Pittsburgh version of Clayton Kershaw. But you remember during the height of Kershaw's Cy Young winning seasons, he absolutely could not beat the Cardinals, especially in the postseason.
The seventh inning was his kryptonite.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing for the Cardinals is their pitching is beyond suspect. If you want to go online to STL Sports Central, that is former St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist Bernie Miklas's website. And Bernie is a total seamhead analytics geek. So if you like that stuff, he gets into the numbers. I don't, and I'm not going to try to translate them. But if you look at the numbers, one of the things that's really concerning about the pitching is how low their strikeout rate is and how high their batted ball rate is. And put very simply, when you strike a batter out, there's no chance that he's going to get a hit. If he puts the ball in play, there's a chance it's going to get through the infield or in between the outfielders. When you put a ball in play, there is a chance that something good is going to happen. And their batted ball rate is way too high for a pitching staff. Are there some bright spots in the pitching staff? Yeah, their closer looks great. George Soriano is emerging as a force with the setup. But I really think that was Chaim Bloom's intention from the beginning of the season. Let's identify who can stick and stay in our pitching staff. And so, I think you're going to just continue to see this churn with pitchers going up and down between St. Louis and Memphis. There's going to be times where, like yesterday afternoon, where the starting pitcher just, gives up 4 runs right from the start to, a good Milwaukee team. Milwaukee's always good. So, yeah, you're not going to see the Cardinals be on the same level with the Braves or the Cubs or even the Dodgers, even though they got the best of the Dodgers. They're going to be fun. They're going to be competitive. They're going to finish probably, I would say, 4 or 5 games above 500. But, at least there's hope. At least this is an entertaining team to follow, and something that I could not have predicted last season, where I literally did not pay attention to the Cardinals at all. I mean, they weren't even an afterthought. They were a distraction from football off season as far as I was concerned. But the Cardinals have my interest again. I follow the scores. I follow the writing online about them. They're all over my social media with highlights. And I describe my baseball upbringing this way. My parents and grandparents taught me about Stan Musial and Bob Gibson before they taught me about Jesus and Peter. So take that for what you will.
And can verify the same. I learned a lot about that before the latter. But my regards with the team. Obviously, they're incredibly fun at the plate defensively. We are really balanced, and offensively, we're the kind of team we showed in the Seattle series that we did lose 2 out of 3, that we can slug with the best of them, and in the Dodger series we could slug with the best of them. However, we also showed we can win with small ball. That makes for any offense to be very dangerous because you don't know how to game plan for them. Pitching wise, yeah, we know team ERA right now is 4.5. The issue you brought up still bothers me because that was last year's issues. The Cardinals were dead last in all of baseball in strikeouts forced by pitchers, and it really hasn't changed much this year. So when you're not striking guys out, you pitch in a fairly neutral ballpark. Some days it's a little more hitter friendly. That's a problem. But thankfully we do have a really good defense to bail out the pitching staff just in case. But we can't be relying on that all the time. I'm with you, Mark. I do think we're going to be about an 85 win team, but we're going to be a really fun team. And for a contender, say getting into August, September, if you're trying to lock down a division or you're scrapping for a wild card spot, we may not be the team you want to see.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And one of the ways in which they've demonstrated that is their ability to come back in late innings. I remember Cardinals teams of the past, if they were down by more than a run or two after the seventh inning, you could just hang it up. I mean, it's like they were just going to roll over and die, like a possum after midnight on a lonely highway. But
Oh, that's a good metaphor because I live out north of Popper Bluff, out in the sticks on a gravel road, and possums are a big thing here on the hill. So anytime I hear that, it makes me want to laugh.
Yeah, and that's what the Cardinals used to look like in terms of come from behind wins. But this is a team they I don't know the exact number, but they have a lot of big come from behind wins, late inning wins. I'm talking eighth and ninth inning. Even yesterday when I was looking at the score and they were down 6-1 going into the bottom of the ninth. And then I looked at my phone again and they scored a run. I thought, okay, here we go. Just 4 more runs. We'll tie this up and then win it in extra innings. It's not an inconceivable thought because, we've seen them do it. Looking ahead at the schedule. Hold on a second. I clicked on the entirety of the schedule. Go ahead and jump in while I'm bringing up the Cardinals schedule.
While you're talking about that, as of right now, the Cardinals lead all of baseball in extra inning wins with 5, thus proving they are never out of it. As much as a lot of people don't like the second base runner rule and extras, which I'm one of them. Hey, long as we got more than the other guys, I'm good. And this is the kind of team, they're scrappy. They're going to fight you. Now, if only we would work the count a little bit more, lower strikeouts. But that's more of an all of baseball gripe for me.
Yeah, right. And again, that's a young team. Coming up, they're in San Diego this weekend for a 4-game series against the Padres. The Padres are currently 22-14, So very similar record to the Cardinals. They're currently sitting in second place, half a game behind the Dodgers. That's going to be telling. A West Coast road trip is going to tell us a lot about the Cardinals. Matthew Liberatore is going to be going tonight for the Cardinals. That game is going to be on ESPN. So it's one of those rare occasions where you can actually see the Cardinals play on television. That's another issue for another day. But the lack of free Cardinals baseball on the television is just an absolute atrocity. I'm not giving MLB TV $100 for the right to watch Cardinals games, and just the way that the media dynamic has changed, and people say NFL's on Netflix and Amazon. Folks, everybody has Netflix and Amazon, and if you don't, you have somebody in your family or a close friend who has Netflix or Amazon. That's not an impediment, okay? Nobody subscribes to MLB TV. I don't want to have to pay extra. And the fact that Major League Baseball and their clown commissioner, Rob Manfred, wasn't able to work any sort of acceptable media deal for any of his teams that aren't named the Yankees or the Dodgers is just absolutely unconscionable. And it's one of the reasons why the NFL continues to grow its game and to grow its exposure, because they know how to make their product accessible to the masses. And it seems like baseball has gone in the opposite direction, making the games harder to find, harder to watch, and more expensive if you want to do that.
You know how much you got to suck as a commissioner to make Adam Silver and Gary Bettman look cool?
You have to suck as hard as Rob Manfred. That's exactly how that happens.
And you see, I'm rocking me a proper hockey sweater. God knows I do not like Gary Bettman. Nobody does.
Nobody does.
Pretty sure the doctor slapped him in the face.
Tell us about your sweater.
This is a Nagano from the 1998 Nagano Olympics. Russia.
Deep dive.
Pavel and it is an autographed Pavel Bure sweater, as he is my favorite hockey player of all time, the Russian Rocket.
Nice. Okay, so we've got 4 on the road in San Diego, and then where the hell do the A's play? They're just
Sacramento.
Sacramento.
Okay, so tangent.
My God.
So tangent because because I think I hate John Fisher more than I hate Stan Kroenke, and I do mean that. Hashtag FJF, if you know, you know. No, they play. I forget the name of the ballpark they played. It's like Sutter something Park. It is a minor league ballpark as a temp for the Athletics, as they are no longer allowed legally it's mandated by Manfred to be called Oakland. You know what all the announcers did last year? Accidentally called them Oakland on broadcast television because they know it's BS.
Oh my gosh.
Admittedly, as a baseball team this year, they're fun. And in typical Oakland fashion, they have boys who can mash on that team.
The surprising thing, looking at the standings in the AL West, the A's are in first place, but they're only a 500 team. They're 18-18. The rest of the West is below 500.
I don't understand with Seattle. I really don't.
I think Seattle's going to turn it around. Obviously, they have all of the talent that they did last season when they had a real chance to make it to the World Series. All right, another question for you about the A's. They're going to Vegas. Why aren't they playing in Vegas? Are they waiting for a domed stadium to be constructed?
Their stadium's being constructed as we speak. This wasn't planned out well at all. Vegas did not have Las Vegas doesn't have a minor league ballpark, and I believe UNLV's college stadium is not regulation size for a major league team to play in.
Well, just further evidence that Manfred is not earning his salary as Major League Baseball's commissioner. We're going to pitch it back to Mike for a break, and then when we come back, we'll do a runaround of other news and sports.
Sounds great. And guys, You're listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Colin. We will be back in just a moment.
This is Three Rivers men's basketball coach Robert Kirby, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And we are back on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. We're going to kind of do a quick run around the horn before we wrap it up. We still have the NBA playoffs going on, Stanley Cup playoffs still going on. And guys, I know you got some thoughts there, so have at it.
Well, let me do a recap of where the brackets sit with the NBA, and then we'll let Kyle give his thoughts on that. Oklahoma City Thunder have a 1-0 lead over the LeBron James Lakers.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's LeBron James and who? Timberwolves and Spurs. Man, that looks like a good series. They're tied up 1-1. Good news for the Wolves. Anthony Edwards has returned from injury. Over in the East, the Pistons somehow pulled out the miracle and beat the 8th-seeded Magic team, and now they are leading 1-0 over Cleveland. So Pistons back from the dead, and they might have some momentum. Speaking of back from the dead, the 76ers came out of nowhere to upset the 2nd seed Boston Celtics. And, nothing makes me happier than watching a Boston team melt down and lose. It warms my heart.
I can't imagine why.
And so, now it looks like Philly has the New York Knicks right where they want them.
Wrong.
Because they're down 2-0, so I guess they can drop to 3-0 and then win 4 in a row. No, that's not going to happen.
Oh, good Lord, no.
So, the Thunder obviously have the advantage over LA. The Pistons look to have momentum over Cleveland. The Knicks look good. To me, it looks like the only real question is who has the advantage in that Minnesota-San Antonio series.
So, aside from the fact that Minnesota got washed by 38 points last night, 133 to 95. Game 1, however, literally the largest deficit was 4 points. It was back and forth. However, as we've always said, Wemby is an alien, and he proved it in Game 1. He set an NBA playoff record. 12 blocked shots in Game 1. 12. He had 7 in the first quarter. I just want you to think about that. However, he does have a neutralizer in his mentor, who is the complete antithesis stylistically of him, and Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is an old school 80s back to the basket post. He's basically Mark Eaton for an older reference, but he also mentored Victor Wembanyama as they're both Frenchmen. This series now goes to Minneapolis, and the Wolves should be feeling a lot better and healthy. The only real player they're missing is Dante DiVincenzo, as he's their best 3-point shooter. Minnesota's a grimy group of guys. They're gonna be a hard out. I feel bad for LeBron though, because this is the worst supporting cast with no Luka and no healthy Anthony Davis, aka Mr. Street Clothes. This is the worst supporting cast he's had since his rookie year in 03-04, and I genuinely mean that. This 41-year-old man is not going to be able to keep up for 48 minutes with all these young thoroughbreds, and I think Oklahoma City only has one player over 30.
How legitimate do you think it is to say that this is finally going to be the year that the Knicks get back and reclaim the NBA title?
Considering I wasn't alive when they last won one in 1973, or as Stephen A. Smith would say, my hairline was 5 feet forward at that time.
5 years old. It's like I entered kindergarten in fall of 73.
I was negative 14. All right, so chill. But because they're playing a team in Philadelphia who Joel Embiid not clutch. It's going to come down like the fact
they're going to put that on his tombstone. Not clutch.
Oh, same thing goes for James Harden. If your go-to offensive option is James Harden, you don't win a championship.
No.
You absolutely don't. But with the Knicks, they very much have a shot. But I still think you have to go through Detroit. Detroit legitimately got so fortunate that Orlando missed 22 consecutive shots at home in a winner-take-all Game 7. And you know what happened? Jamal Mosley, the head coach of the Magic, got fired the next day.
Yeah, right. That's exactly the sort of thing that a billionaire sports owner would do after, coughing up a series lead and barfing up a hairball in a key game 7.
But
That's
I do think
not the right thing to do, but I mean completely predictable.
yeah, as you do. But I genuinely do believe it would be wonderful for the NBA and for the city of New York and for MSG in the NBA finals. It's not the Knicks in the finals for me as much. It's Madison Square Garden mattering in June. There's something different and special about it.
Yeah, let's talk about the other series that's going on that will end sometime in June. Unfortunately, Minnesota is not going to fare nearly as well in the NHL playoffs as they might in the NBA playoffs. They're down 2-0 to the Colorado Avalanche, who clearly appears to be the best team left in the tournament.
Sandman, it's not even that. It's in game 1. Colorado scored 9 goals.
I know.
And then 5 in game 2.
Yeah, against their backup goalie. Yeah, Minnesota does not have an answer for Colorado's offense. Vegas and Anaheim are tied up at 1. The Buffalo Sabres, who I think are everybody's Cinderella darling, who follows the NHL, they took a 1-0 lead over the Montreal Canadiens. And then Carolina is up on the Philadelphia Flyers 2-0. I would love to see an Avalanche Sabres final. I mean, it's like I would hope that the hockey gods would align to make that happen.
If not them, Colorado and Carolina, both teams, like, they play antithetical styles of each other. Colorado, not only do they play fast, they are fast, and that's horrifying. You have to think 10 times as fast as you move when you play against Colorado. Carolina is deep. They are so strong defensively, and I love Rod Brindamore, Rod the Bod, former Blue Flyer legend, Hurricane legend, and also I got a Hurricane sweater, so I'm going to rock that.
There you go.
The Anaheim series, that surprised me that they actually took game 2 from Vegas. Anaheim plays no defense. Their goaltending is suspect, but they're kind of like the St. Louis Cardinals. They're a young, fun team that can generate a lot of offense, but everything else is suspect or lacking. But they're playing against a veteran Vegas team who's won a Stanley Cup, and they've been there. So I was pleasantly surprised to see that. My heart breaks the fact that Montreal and Buffalo are playing in the second round. I did not want that at all. I love the Canadiens, Martin St. Louis. As a short person, I champion short athletes. Marty St. Louis is the shortest man to ever win the league's MVP. He's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. He went undrafted. He's the head coach of Montreal. They have a super fun offensive team to watch. Plus, it is the mecca of hockey. But
of course,
there's something so different about Buffalo playoff hockey. It's that energy. They're basically a Canadian team as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. I'm also happy to hear that you support short athletes because, of course, that immediately brings to mind Vikings assumed to be starting quarterback this season, Kyler Murray. The good news.
By the way, hey guys, bit of trivia. Some of the memes I have seen about Kyler Murray as the Vikings quarterback have been downright hilarious, if not a little bit mean.
Oh, the best one is that scene from season 1 of Game of Thrones, and they have that. It's the one where Tyrion comes out and slaps Joffrey about 4 or 5 times.
Say something else, I'll slap you again. I'm telling mother.
Whack. I know, and of course the caption on there is that Tyrion is Kyler and Joffrey is J.J. McCarthy.
Oh, that's foul. There is no way on earth. There is no way on earth any human being could compare to Joffrey Baratheon.
Oh gosh. Well,
the news out of Minnesota this week is another candidate in addition to interim general manager Rob Brzezinski has emerged, and that is Terrence Gray, who is the assistant general manager for the Buffalo Bills. Gray came up, he spent 11 years in Minnesota as a college scout, and then he got his opportunity back in 2017 to join the front office over in Buffalo. And so he has been a part of the front office that drafted and developed Josh Allen. He's been part of the continued regular season success as well as playoff frustration. I don't know if you necessarily want to bring and add a Buffalo jinx to the Minnesota playoff jinx, but I also suspect that that one of two things is happening here. Either the Vikings are doing a perfunctory search for other candidates, doing their due diligence so it actually looks like a search, but they're going to give the job to Rob Brzezinski because that's who they want to continue on as their general manager. Or this is a possibility. And again, the folks up on the Purple Daily podcast talked about this. So I want to give them credit because that's where I heard this idea articulated. That Brzezinski is named president of football operations, and he's sort of like your overall leader, your CEO of everything in the building. And then a second person who's a football guy is given the title of general manager, and they are in charge of the roster. They're in charge of personnel. We don't know. That's speculation. We don't know if that's what the Wilfs have, but there's a really good point that the past two general managers have had serious communication breaks with their head coach. It started with Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman at the end. They were not speaking to each other. And of course, there was a lot of reports of professional tension, not only between Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, but that Kwesi was not connecting with the rest of the staff, even in his front office, that he had really, sort of lost control of the ship as the ship's captain. So I think Brzezinski has already shown that he was the right guy to just kind of bring stability to the organization. I do think that they had a solid draft. I saw somebody, Kyle, comment on this, please, before I go on. Somebody said if Caleb Banks fulfills his potential, he'll be the second coming of Reggie White.
Oh, dear Lord. That's horrifying. Especially coming up the middle, because Reggie was an end. If you can get a guy at his size to generate that kind of pressure and strength, and God forbid if he's anywhere as strong as Reggie White, that is terrifying.
Yeah, if Banks fulfills the promise the way that they think he's going to, the reason that they took him so high in their draft as they did, I think that people will look back at this draft, whether Brzezinski remains as general manager or in charge of the organization. I think if Banks is a success and the rest of the players play out, I think we'll look at this draft as a real turning point for the organization. I don't really care. I just want this team to win a playoff game. I want this team to make it back to the playoffs and win a playoff game, and start getting, like I said in our first part, when we're talking about teams that have a legitimate chance to win a championship. When we look at Cleveland or the Jets or Dallas, throw my darts down at the Cowboys. Those are teams who we know do not have a legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl. The Vikings aren't there yet either. We know that they're not. And I think for the same reasons, and everybody knows, it's our endless, ongoing, never-ending search for a quarterback who can take us all the way to the promised land. And I really don't care about the name behind the desk. I just want somebody who can put all of the pieces together once and for all and give us a legitimate chance. I'm not saying that they're going to win it. Winning a championship in a professional sport is an extraordinarily difficult thing to do, regardless of the sport. But I want to be in the conversation. I want to be able to say, I think the Vikings are going to make it to the Super Bowl this year, and not sound like a delusional fanboy.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And that's our show for this week, y'all. We've got some good stuff planned coming up. We are hoping to be joined in the coming weeks by new Poplar Bluff Mules athletic director Jake Nicholson. We are slated to be joined at the end of the month by Scott Cruz, the director of the 18 for Life organization. And they're having their big gala coming up, or their big event coming up first part of June. We'll want to talk about that. We've got some other things we're cooking up. But that's going to be a few weeks from now. So I'm Mike Bueller.
I'm Mark Sanders.
Hey, this is Kyle Roberts.
And you have been listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.